So I think there really is a need for a good newsy Catholic media, which can incorporate radio and television like we're doing now. And that needs to be supported. I think maybe it's been taken for granted too much and is underfunded. And, I think maybe that's a question for the institutional church to look at and say, well, how do we fund this more? And if we want to talk about mission, which is the go-to word for the church now, you have to fund mission.
Hello and welcome to The Way. I'm Wendy Grace. Well, obviously, so much of what we do here is in the digital space, but we still love having a physical newspaper in our hands. And joining me in studio to talk a little bit about the evolution of the Irish Catholic and just a chat on media in general, I have the publisher of the Irish Catholic newspaper, Garry O'Sullivan. Garry, you've been at this game a long time. How have things changed? How have they evolved? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, if you can't embrace change in publishing, you're be out of business fairly quickly. Change is the middle name of the Irish Catholic. It's been around since 1888,
Wow.
and if we listened to some people 10 years ago, it's like get online, but that hasn't been the trajectory for a lot of Catholic newspapers. There's a strong readership. People want a physical, like you said, a physical newspaper, and we were doing some kind of research recently and looking at numbers and thinking, well, how many people, because there's no figures really on how many people are actually going to church these days. So we reckon it's somewhere close to about 1 million people still go to Mass on Sunday, which is quite a
Yeah, it's not,
figure of
yeah.
people, yeah.
Of the figures I saw is kind of 1 in 3 semi-regularly attend a church service
Yeah.
of
uh,
some sort or another.
yeah.
So there's an audience there, really.
Yeah, well, I love boring people to death about, if it was any other organization that had 1 million people and they knew where they were going to be on a Sunday, they would
Captive audience, yeah.
captive audience. They would make sure that they'd have something in their hand going home. And I suppose that's what we try to do, as much as we can, to reach those people and send them home with a really good Catholic newspaper that's not just news and features. It's also got prayer aids and Lectio Divina and lots of other stuff. The kind of people that you have on the show write in the paper regularly. So it's a good read for the rest of the week for them.
It's a difficult industry, though, I imagine, Gary, as you say, with you're trying to do both. You've got your physical copy, the online world. You're trying to reach different audiences. How do you keep up with it all?
Struggle.
Lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee, lots of strong coffee. Yeah, it is like we do have a digital presence as well. We started a new newsletter recently because we go to press on a Tuesday, paper comes out on a Thursday, but by Thursday there could be something else has broken, some news story. So we've done a newsletter on a Thursday that kind of does the newer stories and highlights some of the older ones, and that goes out to our readers. And then we have a Twitter X account, and we have, we've all the social media stuff as well.
Do you think there's more of as you say, 1 million people going to church on a Sunday? Do you think there's more of an appetite for Catholic media than people might expect? I mean, I was fascinated, for example, when we were waiting to see who the new pope was going to be, um, the level of interest in the global media around the world, here in Ireland as well, of course. That there's more of a hunger for kind of Catholic news than people might think.
Yeah, I think so. I think people aren't necessarily interested in inside baseball type Catholicism, and maybe we put too much emphasis on the bishop said this and the bishop said that, and no offense to the bishops, but the politics of it maybe not so much. But I think there is a hunger. We see on social media as well, like there's a hunger for faith, there's a hunger to know God. And there definitely seems to be a lot of evidence that younger people are searching and finding material out there that they find helpful. My own wife she's not a Catholic, she's a Buddhist, and she looks at Vietnamese Buddhist monks on TikTok who produce these high-end videos, and they're kind of sharing wisdom with people, and they have huge followings. And I think so. I think people in the traditional role of the priest as the kind of the local wisdom person and spiritual father to the community, I think we still need that. And that's a huge issue, especially as we go into a synod in the Irish Church, or the preparation for a synod in the Irish Church. I think that role of the priest as the person who's providing spiritual guidance to the community, um, we still have to answer who's going to do that when those priests are gone.
Yeah, the priest as pastor. I'm always fascinated anytime I'm with my brother who is a priest, and you'd be on a train in Italy or Ireland or wherever we'd be together, and if he was wearing the collar or the cassock, people would always come to him and talk to him and wanting that kind of pastoral connection. What about Gary? Just the where you're trying to blend the two that you're talking about. You know, the online space, reaching younger people. This is a reality, but also having to. You've got the traditional side of the media as well. You can do both, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, you can. I suppose we are a newspaper. People have said to us over the years, "Oh, become a magazine." And magazines are a completely different market. And they don't tend to be news-led, they tend to be feature-led. We find that the Irish church is an active church. There's a lot going on. There was the Laudato Si conference, and with the huge Irish influence in that, you had Lorna Gold, Irish woman who's, talking to Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Pope beside each other, but like what an amazing woman organizing all of this. And we highlighted that in the Irish Catholic, but she didn't get much media coverage anywhere else. So I think there's really is a need for a good newsy Catholic media which can incorporate radio and television like we're doing now. And that needs to be supported. I think maybe it's been taken for granted too much and is underfunded. And, I think maybe that's a question for the institutional church to look at and say, well, how do we fund this more? And if we want to talk about mission, which is the go-to word for the church now, you have to fund mission.
Yeah.
So,
And we're now in an era where people are able to kind of curate the type of content that they like, but they pay for it. And we're kind of used to that kind of subscriber model when it comes to the type of media that we want to consume. You mentioned the Irish Synod, and you took on even more work when you created the Synodal Times, which I know you were really driving, Gary. So tell us about that. Are we going to see more with the Irish Synod upcoming?
yes, with Synodal Times was merged with the Irish Catholic, kind of made more sense but at the time, for a year, we had a separate newspaper, which was a bit of work, all right. But yeah, it's good. We're going to be busy now with Julianne and all her gang down in Kilkenny for the synod. It's a preparatory synod, so I suppose we can't expect too much, kind of in terms of conclusions, but it should certainly point us to what's going to happen next year in the Irish synod. Now, if Julianne was sitting here, she'd say, "Well, Gary, now don't be just emphasizing Irish synod. There's going to be synods and mini synods and breakout groups and all that kind of thing." But I think the core issue really is, and I'm writing about this in our issue next week, is the journey of listening is important, but I think sometimes we overemphasize journey and forget about, well, where's the end? Where's the end
With the
point?
practical
And what's
stuff,
going to
yeah.
happen?
Yeah.
Because whether we like it or not, we live in a church that has huge issues around vocations, clergy, closure of churches, amalgamating parishes, all of that kind of stuff. And while it's challenging, it's changed, like we spoke about at the beginning, and we have to address that change. And there's hard decisions going to have to be made.
Yeah. Well, Gary, thanks so much for all the work that you're doing and for joining us on the show today. It's been a great discussion. Gary O'Sullivan, thanks for being with us. And thank you for being with us on the way.